Hey guys, I'm Kobe Cohn. This is my capstone presentation. The majority of my research was on the castration in cattle. However, before we jump into the specifics and the details, we're going to keep it basic here at the beginning. We're going to go over a little bit of history and some stuff like that, and then jump into some different methods and techniques for castrating cattle. So here we go. Let's get started. Castration has been practiced in animal production for many centuries with written documentation that dates back all the way to the 1600s. The original purpose of castration was actually so they could control their work animals. They needed to be docile so they could use them to pull their plows and carts. It is practiced extensively in the United States cattle production operations today, with an estimated 7 million cattle castrations being performed each year on bull calves between the ages of 1 day and 1 year. There are a variety of reasons that castrations are performed in production operations today. The main goal is meat production. Steer meat is just more tender. It's not nearly as dark in color. They marble better, and the meat is just more consistent. Also, reducing aggressive male behaviors makes livestock production safer for handlers and other animals due to bull mounting behaviors and just the way bulls act. They're hard and they're rough on things. Also, not having bulls around, you can cut down on facility costs because you don't have to use near as much material to make them withstand near as much. Um, Also, bull calves sold through auction typically bring a lower price than steers, and they're discounted at feedlots and packer facilities due to meat quality. Another advantage to castrating most bulls is the quality of breeding animals can be increased when only the best are allowed to breed. There's no reason to keep all the bulls for breeding purposes, because if there's bulls that are below average or don't meet the standards of today's operations, there's no reason to use them to breed. Castration is a stressful process for cattle, and there's often weight loss or at least less gain. And there's also some health concerns associated with the process. So, as a producer, the concern is how to ease the stress for cattle and still boost productivity to increase profits. Over the years, a variety of methods and procedures have been tried in search of the most effective methods. In most recent years, societal concerns about animal husbandry meeting higher standards of humane behaviors and techniques have brought a whole new set of questions about the practice of castration. These concerns led me to my research question: can stress caused by the castration process be minimized to increase production and performance and profits by adjusting the method, the timing, or using pain mitigation? Common methods of castration in the U.S. include both surgical and non-surgical methods. Surgical methods vary slightly depending on the age and weight of the animal, but involve the removal of the testes. The most common problems are excessive bleeding and infection from the site of incision. Non-surgical methods include using elastrator bands to interrupt the blood flow to the scrotum until it eventually falls off. The common problems are due to the bands not being tight enough, and this causes excessive pain and swelling and can lead to infections. Other methods that are not as commonly used are burdizos, which only clamp or crush the testicular structure, and chemical methods that involve injecting one of several different chemicals directly into the testes or giving hormonal shots that reduce the production of testosterone. These methods have not been popular due to problems with the task requiring more precision and performance, more expense, the necessity of repeating the shots, and less guarantee of results. In addition to a cost-effective and safe method that is easily performed in any location by producers and their employees with little formal training, it is important for cattle producers to cause minimal stress to the calves. Infections and excessive bleeding can cause sickness and death, but excessive stress or pain can influence behavior, including feed intakes and growth, which affect average daily gain. One of the main questions of concern for cattle producers is if the timing of castration has a significant impact on stress to the calves and if this affects their growth, their weights, and therefore profitability of the operation. Smaller operations where few head are raised on a limited area where contact with cattle keeps place daily, they have an advantage of being able to castrate calves at birth or within the first week. But honestly, this just isn't feasible for large cattle operations. It is a common practice in the U.S. cow-calf operation to work calves only once when they're between the ages of 2 and 5 months and weigh less than 300 pounds. This is to save time and labor necessary to round up the calves and carry out branding, vaccinating, dehorning if necessary, and castrating bulls. Many operations calve for a period of several months, so at the time of working, calves can vary in age and weight. It is also not uncommon in some areas where calves are raised on an extensive rangeland program for cattle to only be gathered once or twice a year. A consideration for many operations is whether weaning and castration should take place at the same time, or if cattle do better when these traumatic events take place separately. Weaning typically takes place at around 6 months of age, and calves often experience low immunity due to changes in not having milk and being exposed to a different environment. The lower price paid for bull calves going through auctions has made it desirable to some producers, so there's been a rise in bulls bought for stocker cattle. Many of these cattle are castrated upon arrival in stocker facilities or are castrated within a few weeks of arrival at the stocker facility. Differences in productivity between steers and bulls become noticeable at about 10 months due to the androgens produced during puberty. Increased muscle and average daily gain are the biggest differences and have led to the increased practice of late castration after puberty and finishing as steers to take advantages of the benefits of meat quality and the early increased production. A final concern in the effectiveness of castration and its effects on production is whether pain mitigation makes a difference in the production performance. Currently, there are no analgesic drugs approved for pain relief in livestock approved by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration because there's no valid methods for measuring pain. The Animal Medicinal Drug Use Clarification Act of 1994 only allows for extra label use of analgesics if 5 regulations are met, including supervision by a vet, which can be a substantial cost to producers, and only if the health of the animal is threatened and not for production, which rules out standard procedures like castration and dehorning. While there are indicators that the stress could be reduced in cattle with these treatments, the regulatory concerns preventing the use of many drugs and others requiring a vet to supervise or that it must be administered intravenously prevents the practical application for production agriculture. I reviewed a number of studies on methods and timing of castration and pain mitigation, and several general recommendations can be made for producers to ease stress for cattle. Castration at birth or soon after is shown to be the least stressful for cattle if the operation will allow for this. Surgical and banding methods of castration show little difference in overall average daily gain. However, banding is done incorrectly more often, which leads to more stress and problems, so the surgical method is still generally considered better in many cases. Weaning and castration done at the same time cause less stress and weight loss than the tasks being performed separately if the cattle are only gathered once. There's also less stress seen in cattle that are castrated immediately upon arrival at a stocker facility rather than later because they have already suffered the stress from transportation, and the combined stress is preferred over causing 2 stress periods. The early gains seen from later castration after puberty do not significantly outpace the slower gains from cattle castrated at an earlier date, so this practice is not preferred either. Further studies to examine the health and performance effects of regulatory approvals of safe, effective, and convenient analgesics will have to take place before pain mitigation will become a standard practice in methods of castration. All of these recommendations must be taken into consideration by the individual cattle producer, but the fact remains that many operations have little choice in the standard procedures due to cost of labor, the type of operation and location, the number of animals produced, and the type of training and help available. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you know where to post them. Thanks for listening, and I look forward to hearing from you.